"Mummy, please come back, I'm still here waiting for you," Ada cried out, opening her eyes wide in the middle of the night, her voice tiny but loud. She looked around, scared and cold. She was alone, abandoned on the farm where her mother used to work. In the heart of Anambra State, in a village called Amandi, life moved with the earth's rhythm, slow, deliberate, and rooted. Farmers rose with the sun, women carried woven baskets to the market, and children chased goats and chickens through the red-dusted paths. But on this day, there was a strange stillness in the cassava farm that bordered the eastern edge of the village. In the shade of a crooked mango tree, a girl no older than 6 sat on the ground with her knees drawn to her chest. Her name was Adaobi, but everyone called her Ada. Her mother had brought her here early that morning. "Stay here," she'd said. "I'll be back soon." She kissed Ada on the forehead, adjusted the little girl's threadbare frock, and walked away through the tall rows of cassava and bush yam. Ada waited. First the sun was warm. Then it grew hot. Her mother did not return. She waited through the hum of insects, the caw of crows, and the rustle of dry leaves. Villagers passed now and then, but no one stopped long enough to ask why she was there. Children are often left on farms for hours. It wasn't so unusual. But then it was evening and she was still there. And the truth began to settle in, heavier than hunger. Her mother was not coming back. "Mummy, Ada will come for me," she said, refusing to accept her reality. She stayed awake all through the night looking at the part her mother took when leaving, and unable to sleep. The next morning, Motsi Okonkwo, a man who moved from village to village selling motor parts, goat meat, and sometimes doing illegal things, walked past the field on his way to the main road. He saw Ada, dusty, weak, eyes empty of tears. He crouched beside her. "Little girl, what are you doing here and where is your mother?" he asked. "She went inside the bush," Ada murmured. "Since when yesterday?" he asked, lifting his brow. Ada nodded with tears in her eyes. He looked around, thinking of his next move while offering her a half bottle of Fanta drink. "Come," he said. "Let me help you find your mother." He did not take her to the village chief, or ask anyone if they recognized her. He put her in his rickety blue Peugeot and drove away to Ogyuta, a bustling river town 2 hours away from the village. In Ogyuta, there lived a woman called Madam Wise, known in the area for taking in girls, without parents or abandoned. Her husband had died many years ago, and since then, she lived alone in a large compound choked with weeds. Behind her house was a smokehouse and a small shed where young girls cooked, scrubbed and slept. When Motsi Okonkwo brought Ada to her, they didn't talk for long. "She's alone. Her mother disappeared into the bush and left her there since yesterday. I can't keep her," he said. "How old is she?" Madam Wise asked, looking at Ada with no expression. "Maybe 5 or 6. Quiet and obedient, she will be useful." She gave him some in an envelope and didn't ask any more questions. "Take her inside," she told one of the older girls, whose name was Ngozi. She quickly held Ada by the hand and led her in. From that day on, Ada became part of Madam Wise's house. But not as a daughter, not even as a child. She was a servant like the rest of the other girls. A broom was placed in her small hands, and a bucket of water was balanced on her head. In the mornings they rose before the sun, and in the evenings they fell asleep with aching feet and growling stomachs due to hunger, because the food they were given was never enough to feed one of them. There were 5 other girls in the house: Ngozi, Ifyinanya, Bola, Chinyu, and the youngest, Mariam. None of them had family nearby. Some, like Ada, were found in the bush or on the streets roaming around. Others were orphans, given away by distant relatives who didn't want the burden of taking care of them. They all had one rule: don't cry, don't complain, don't talk back. That was the rule Madam Wise gave, and no one dared to go against her. But Ada was different in a quiet way. At night, while others whispered sad stories about their lives or sobbed into their pillows, Ada lay awake and whispered to herself, "My name is Adaobi. My mother abandoned me, she is gone. But I'm still here, alive and hoping." Sometimes, she remembered her mother's melodious voice singing old Igbo lullabies or the smell of ogbono soup cooking in their tiny one-room home. Those memories were like small pieces of sunlight breaking through the heavy clouds of her new life. She began to keep a secret, hoping that one day she would leave this place. She would count days on the wall beside her mat using charcoal she had hidden under the mattress. She would make a mark for every day she survived under the harsh living conditions of Madame Wise. Months passed. Madame Wise hardly noticed her unless something was wrong. Ada became strong. She worked fast and quietly. She learned to carry water without spilling a drop from it. She cleaned without being told to do so. And she began to learn how to read from scraps of old newspapers she found in the trash, sounding out words slowly by candlelight at night. Ngozi, the oldest girl, once caught her reading. "What are you doing?" she asked, looking at Ada. "I'm learning how to read," Ada said. Ngozi looked around to be sure no one was watching, then smiled a little. "Good. Keep learning. One day you will use it," she said, still smiling at Ada, and left. The next day, it was a rainy night, and the thunder cracked loud enough to shake the roof of the small patched house they slept in. Miriam, who had been having a fever, coughed all through the night. Ada tried to keep her warm by wrapping her in a ragged shawl. She did all she could to make sure that Miriam was okay. "Miriam, please be strong. You'll be fine by morning," she said, covering her properly with the shawl while the other girls slept like nothing was happening. When morning came, Ada, who had barely slept, stood up from the mat. She looked at Miriam and saw that she was barely breathing. Ada quickly rushed out and did something unthinkable. She went to Madame Wise's room and knocked on the door repeatedly, making sure to get an answer before she stopped. "Who is that?" The woman barked and opened the door. "It's Ada. Miriam is very sick. Please, she needs medicine." There was silence, and then a slap, sharp and hard. Ada fell to the floor, holding her swollen cheek, stunned. "Do not wake me up again," Madame F shouted and shut the door. Ada stood up slowly from the floor as tears flowed freely from her eyes. She walked back to the room with a heavy heart, not for her but for Miriam. She sat on the mat beside her with a hand placed on Miriam and sang her mother's favorite lullaby. Unfortunately, Miriam died before the end of the week, and the house became silent for days. After that, something changed drastically in Ada. She no longer just wanted to survive in Madame Wise's house. She wanted to leave. So she waited patiently. She listened attentively. And she watched the patterns of Madame F's comings and goings. She memorized the narrow path behind the house that led to the bush road. One night, when the moon was only a sliver in the sky, Ada wrapped the charcoal-stained wrapper around her body, tucked in a dry packet of gari, which she had been saving into her cloth, and ran. She ran fast, barefooted and heart-pounding, through the bush road, past barking dogs and sleeping farms. She didn't stop until the sun began to rise. By mid-morning she reached Umun's, a town where she had heard there was a Miss Visionary. She wandered around still barefooted until she found it, a large compound with a painted sign that said St. Teresa's Orphanage and School. She stood before the signboard, which was at the gate, and collapsed. She was found at the gate by the nuns who took her in. They bathed her, fed her, and listened to her story in fragments. It took her a while before she told them everything that had happened to her. Madame Wise was reported and arrested by the local authorities, and the other girls were found and taken in by the orphanage. Ada stayed. She started school. She kept learning. She began to laugh again. Although her nightmares didn't stop right away, they softened. Years passed, and Ada had grown into a beautiful lady. One day, while standing in front of a classroom of children she was teaching, chalk in hand and confidence in her voice, she introduced herself. "My name is Adeobi Nwankwo. I was once forgotten. But I am not anymore." She stood there smiling brightly while looking at the children and wondered if she'd ever get to see her mother again. The thought of seeing her mother again filled her mind for weeks. She kept wondering why her mother, who seemed to love her so much, would abandon her and never care to look for her. Could she have a genuine reason for leaving me at the farm many years ago? She kept pondering. "I need to find her and make her explain why she did that to me," she said and stood up from her table. She went straight to the matron, who had been like a mother to her and other kids for years, and explained her desire to find her mother. "Where do you think she might be?" Matron asked with concern and a soft voice. "It's been over a decade since you last saw her. Do you think you can still recognize her when you see her?" Ada was silent for some seconds. "Yes, mother, I can," Ada replied. Matron was quiet for some seconds. It was difficult to let Ada go because she was one of the best at the orphanage and the kids loved her. "Let us know when you're ready," she said finally. Ada was happy but a bit skeptical. She had no idea where to start from, but she was determined. Ada was already 22 and carried the silence of an entire childhood like a stone inside her chest. The journey to Amandi took 4 hours in a hot, wheezing bus packed with sweating passengers, crying babies, and a goat tied to the roof. Ada sat silently near the window, watching the towns roll by. Equiolobia, Nui Ozubulu, each one a possibility, each one a dead end. She arrived in Amandi, which had transformed into a lively town, just as the afternoon was beginning to fall. The town was noisy, alive with haggling traders, thundering okadas, and the melodic rhythm of Igbo greetings crisscrossing the air. She didn't know where to begin. She held her small bag, looking around, trying to find something that would give her a clue, but all she could remember was her mother's name, Teresa. She looked ahead and saw a woman roasting plantain near the junction. She approached her and greeted. "Good afternoon, Auntie." The woman looked up. Good afternoon, my daughter. Do you want some plantain?" she asked with smoky eyes. "No, ma. Please. I'm looking for someone. Her name is Teresa. She used to work on a farm, a mank farm, a long time ago. Does the name sound familiar to you?" The woman's hands stilled. Her eyes narrowed, looking at Ada. "Did you say Teresa?" she asked, still looking at Ada. "Yes, ma," Ada replied. She made the sign of the cross. "Teresa, are you her daughter?" she asked again. Ada nodded slowly with a glimmer of hope. The woman was silent for a long moment. Then she muttered, "Go to Mama Ibekwe. Her husband owned a mank farm before he died. She will know more about your mother." Ada thanked her and left to locate Mama Ibekwe's house, which was big but worn, its walls cracked like old cola nuts. Ada looked around as she entered the compound. She knocked gently on the door and waited for an answer. Soon she heard someone answer from inside. Mama Ibekwe answered the door with a cane in one hand and suspicion in her eyes. "Yes, what do you want?" she asked. Ada greeted her as she looked at the woman who looked a bit familiar. "Good day, ma, please, I'm looking for my mother. Her name is Teresa. She used to work here some years ago." Mama Ibekwe took a good look at Ada and opened the door widely as she walked out. Her breath caught in surprise. "She left you?" she asked. "She told me to wait for her at the farm. She never came back for me," Ada explained. The old woman sighed, leaning against the doorframe. "I remember her. She used to be a quiet girl, kept to herself. She came from Nsukka after some trouble. Your mother was hiding from something or someone. And one day she vanished. You look just like her, same eyes like hers." Ada swallowed hard. "Do you know where she went? And how I can locate her?" "She used to have a friend then, his name is Shinonso. They both came to Umans together. He might know where your mother is," she said and gave Ada the address to Shinonso's place. After walking for almost an hour, she was able to locate where he was. Shinonso lived in a small compound on the outskirts of town. He was a carpenter by trade. His hands were calloused and rough, but his eyes were kind and gentle. He stared at Ada for a long time before speaking. "I should have come for you the day she came back from the farm without you. You knew me?" Ada asked, her eyes heavy with tears. "I helped raise you on that farm when you were a baby. People thought you were my daughter because your mother was running from your father." Ada's breath hitched. "My father?" she asked, surprised. She could remember her mother never mentioned anything about her father to her. Shinonso nodded slowly. "Your father was a soldier. Teresa, your mother was only 16 when they met." He promised her everything just to get her by his side. But when she got pregnant, he denied her and accused her of witchcraft, saying that she bewitched him into being with her. He beat her and tried to kill her several times. She escaped from his house and I helped her get to Amandi. Tears welled in Ada's eyes at the revelation. But why did she leave me? Why did she abandon me at the farm? She questioned as the tears dropped uncontrollably. She didn't mean to, Shinonso said. That morning she saw him, your father. He had tracked her down to Amandi. She ran deep into the bush, leaving you behind, hoping to lead him away from you. We thought he had killed her. But after some weeks, I heard whispers that she was seen in ABA. Then in Port Harcourt. And then I heard nothing about her anymore. He explained with a sorry expression. So, that means she could still be alive? Ada asked with a popped eyes. Shinonso hesitated, then nodded. I think she is. And I believe she's been looking for you and also waiting for the day she will get to see you. Please, sir, do you have her address or any clue I can get to reach her? Ada asked, wiping her tears with her hand. I wish I knew. I would gladly give it to you. Although there's a way you can do that, he said and explained it to her. It took another 2 weeks and the help of an NGO that tracked missing women before Ada found her. Teresa was working as an auxiliary nurse at a health center in Owerri where she felt safe from her abusive husband. She had changed her name and was living on a low-key, hoping that one day she would be reunited with her daughter. Finally, Ada was standing in front of her mother, who was visibly shaking. Neither of them spoke for the first few seconds. They just stared at each other. Mother and daughter, separated by almost 2 decades. Then Teresa whispered, Adeabi. Ada rushed into her arms, sobbing. Why did you leave me? Why did you abandon me, mother? Teresa held her tight. I never stopped looking at my precious daughter. And I'm so sorry. But I was so ashamed. I didn't think you'd want me anymore. I waited, Ada said. I waited at the farm hoping you would come back for me. She cried. I'm so sorry, Ada. Nothing will ever separate us now that you're here, I promise. Teresa, her mother, said. Ada was satisfied knowing that her mother did what she did to save her from her abusive father, and even more happy that her mother never lost hope in finding her someday. They lived happily together in Owerri as they progressed in both status and wealth. Then, please click the subscribe button for more stories.